We are recording.
There we go.
Yeah, I've never done this. I'm so excited. And I'm going to introduce you. But first, yeah, what's your background? The literal background.
So
What's
this
your
is a
background?
photo. Yeah. So this is a photo that I took in Norway last year on our expedition. So this is, I think, it's somewhere up in northern Norway in the fjords. It's a small. I think it might be coming out of a town called Skjervøy, which is one of the most northerly towns in Norway. Like really, it's about probably around 350 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle. So, you're getting up there. But yeah, so this is probably about halfway through our trip. And we would just because it was November in the Arctic, you only get 4 days of daylight a day. Less at this point because it changes by about 10 minutes a day at that point. Like it's pretty intense change. And so you're in this perpetual dawn dusk, which makes for the just most incredible skies, which you will have seen, I guess, like that. So when you were playing Found in the Fjords, you hopefully noticed the sky box is kind of that dusk dawn, and that was very purposeful because that was our experience. So because we were in the middle of the Arctic winter, so it's always that kind of really atmospheric, colorful sky, and this is one of them. So this was probably taken about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. No, one or 2 in the afternoon probably.
Oh, see, I would actually like that because I tend to like low lighting. Although we're shooting this in the daytime, so this is different for me. But I would like that dusk to vibe.
Then the rest of the time it's like properly dark. But we got some incredible aurora as well, which was really nice because you've got so much darkness. Yeah.
That's
so
true.
If the aurora's there, you can see it. Whereas here, I mean, we get the aurora a lot here, but because we're lower latitude, the conditions aren't so good to see it a lot of the time. So
because I think there was an aurora recently, and I was really hoping I could see it, but I also wonder if city lights have a issue with that as well. Huge. I mean, so it's kind of like huge. So it's like, okay, maybe the aurora is there, but I live in too urban of an area.
And we had that advantage too, right? Like we weren't in very urban areas. But it was a really fantastic trip. I can't believe it's been a year.
It's been a year already. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, I've already started talking, but that's great. But I want to introduce you. Louise is my guest today and my very good friend. And she is a VR developer and designer as well. And we were talking about her game Found in the Fjords, but we'll get into that, I'm sure, more in a minute here. But what we're talking about today is we just had a weekend where, I was wondering if we should call it a private game jam, or is it like for us it was probably a game jam, but it was also a co-working session because we had people writing novels as well. So
like I really struggled when I was like, what do I call this? Like it's kind of a game jam, but it's like a creative retreat in your own house. Like I really struggled finding a name. So
what did we do?
So we found that we spent the weekend, there were 4 of us, working on our own projects, but doing it together, so that we could have a little bit of accountability, make it a little bit more fun. And we spent Friday evening through to Sunday evening working on our own projects, but then a couple of times a day we came together for kind of a video chat, rather like this, and kind of shared where we were at. We had a Discord server that we would put resources and progress and frustrations and all of that stuff on, but the whole thing about it was that it was an opportunity for us to each work on the things that we had been letting languish and we really wanted to put some good time into.
How did this idea come about?
Well, lots because of conversations with you, actually.
Right.
So like one of my big goals for this year had been to participate in a game jam. Like it had been a goal for a couple of years actually, but this was very much, I have to get this done. And I ended up doing a small jam back in August. And due to certain circumstances, I hadn't been able to go in person, and I ended up doing it remotely. And there were a bunch of things that I wanted to get out of it, like have that sense of working as a team, and making progress on something towards like a goal, and getting like meeting people and learning all of this stuff. And I finished this game jam and I was like totally disappointed that I had not got any of these things out of it. And I was thinking like, what was it about it? It's like, well, I wasn't particularly inspired by the project that we were doing. Like by the end of it, I was like, yeah, I've done some stuff, but I don't feel like it's got me any closer to where I wanted to be. Like the people who I was in a team with were lovely, but I didn't feel like it was really conducive to me growing. And that's why I'd wanted to do it. And we talked about this afterwards, and we shared our experiences with game jams. And I was just like, but I really want to find something that does all of those things for me, because it was really important. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll just devote a weekend and work on this project, Elevator to the Center of the Earth, that was kind of my original VR project that Found in the Fjords kind of distracted me from for a year.
Definitely, yeah.
I was like, maybe I'll just find a weekend and I'll just work on it, and I will post progress updates like once an hour every 2 hours, just to sit. And then I was like, yeah, you're not going to do that because that's just you and you have no accountability. So I was like, Christine, if I did this, would you like to do this with me?
I'm like,
yeah, that sounds, yeah. I was like, oh, maybe other people might want to do this, and other people who aren't doing games. So
right.
Then
so how was this different? Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
So I have a lot of very super creative friends that work in a lot of creative spaces. And I was aware of kind of, I guess, creative retreats where you'd go and you'd like do embroidery, or you'd go and do a creative writing retreat. They all seemed a little bit like narrow. And same with the game jam, like it only attracts people who are doing this particular kind of creativity. But I have learned so much from all of these different people who are being creative in different ways. And I wanted to have a place for everybody to do their thing, but it was more about being creative and less about the particular kind of thing you were working on. Plus I didn't know how many people were going to be interested in doing it, so I didn't want to narrow it so far that I would like have no one say that they wanted to do it. So yeah, so I think it a couple of things, like I obviously I really wanted to have it as a successful place for people to be creative. But from a personal perspective, like I'm really good at having ideas and then totally doing nothing about them. Like, I'm like, oh, that sounds nice. Wouldn't that be fun? And then like promptly not following through. And it was really important to me that I followed through on this. Right. And could say, oh yeah, look, I'm not a total flake when it comes to having ideas.
Not at all.
Following out there. So
you finished a whole VR game.
Not on my own.
Still.
But also that's different. I think there's, you know, there are things that we will finish, and there are things that we struggle with as humans. That's really right? True. Yeah, that's so really this is something in terms of organizational skills. That is a problem for me. Like I'll have these good ideas. Wouldn't it be great if we all came together to do this? Wouldn't it be great? So I have these ideas and then just don't. So it was important to me to actually follow through. But through our conversations, it was also, and some of the other things that you had experienced with game jams that weren't curated, shall we say, and because it was new, we talked a lot about kind of what constraints do we put around this, and how do we make sure that this is set this up for success, not just everybody who's involved set them up to have a successful weekend, but this like model, like let's really see if we can make it work and find out what how to make it sustainable as a model and useful to people, right? So
yeah. And how was it a success? Sorry to cut you off, but I want to continue further than that. Yeah, like what I mean, I will tell a little bit of my experience that I really felt that by having there was a novelist there, and by having her there, my VR narrative is very story driven. And so to have someone that's a novelist read that, it might not, she might not be a VR developer, but just having her go through my story really extremely helped me. Like really helped. And I had to have nobody had even looked at my story yet. So she was probably I think she was the first person to look at it. Yeah. So that really helped a lot in that sense. But yeah, so what do you feel was a success? Yeah.
So I think a couple of things. I got.
One of the many things.
So that is one thing. Like, and I think that speaks to having that broad creative application, like people, and so that skill set coming from a lot of people, like not restricting it to games or VR or a particular theme or all of these things that are nice to that can be valuable, but those weren't the things that I was trying to kind of bring out of the experience, and that seemed to be really valuable. But I think really the success for me was the environment that we created very, very quickly that made us all so comfortable to share and be vulnerable, and to really push through the challenges and make steps and just work and be a team working on our own things again. And I think that spoke to this, I guess, curated participant list, right? Like, so the three of you, so there were four of us tuning in from across the globe. So I'm here in Western Canada, as was my friend Sunita, who's from an hour down the street, and you in Wisconsin, and then Bridget phoning in from Christchurch in New Zealand. Like, we were pretty transnational. It was very cool.
Yeah, it was really cool.
And I knew all three of you, but you didn't know each other. But because I knew everybody, there was this trust that there was that you could trust these people that you didn't know. And I was actually blown away by how quickly we coalesced into a working group. I think that was the success, because it then led to these other successes that we had as individuals, because we kind of made that group. And I think that informs, and conversations we had about it, kind of what the goals would be, and kind of how to set that up in future, to really make sure that the little groups that we form or that are formed are conducive for people who have potentially not met each other to really feel like they trust each other.
Yes, because there was a hackathon that I did go to that was positive. So, and it was because everyone had to apply to attend it, and it was in person, so that helps as well. So I think when you're, either know the people that you're game jamming with or co-working with, that helps a lot. If people have to apply and there's some accountability there, people come to the event with a higher standard, for themselves of respect. And I think that makes a big difference than being kind of hiding behind, in an anonymity on the internet and doing a game jam. So I've heard of people having good success with those, but I'm just putting that out there
Yeah.
to something to just be aware of, because you may not have a good experience if that's the case. But anyway,
Yeah.
go
And
ahead.
I think it just depends what your goals are, right? Like, I think there's just a
True.
gap there. I think game jams and hackathons are great if you want to work on a new project and with some new people and kind of work together on this single thing and explore like that kind of teamwork processes and kind of that project management side and all of that. Like, and that's great. And I still see a value for those. Absolutely. But that what I realized through doing that was like, actually, that's not what I want to do right now. Like, that's not the goal for me right now. The goal for me is to work on these things that I'm passionate about. And I don't need other people to be passionate about the same things. I just need them to be passionate about something.
Yeah.
And right. And that's kind of nice, like for me, because I mean, I'm quite happy to work in a team, but also I really like to be able to do my own thing and knuckle down and figure stuff out and then check in occasionally. My happiest place, when my husband is in fact in the same province as me, I like to be physically present with him, but doing something completely different.
Yes.
Right, like pottering around in the presence of the people you love. And and this kind of helped with that, because I had this, like, there was this thing in the back of my mind that knew that I was pottering with other people, and that was like so nice for me. Like, I felt very content about that. Like, it was like, I don't have to engage with you
I
apart from these
liked it
small
too.
bits, but I know that you're there. And that for me is really powerful. And I think there's a lot of people who are like that kind of extrovert introvert kind of middle ground. Like, yes. I like social situations, but I like them to be controlled and minimal and constrained. And then, but I like to know that, you know, other people are kind of in the trenches with me. So I think there's just a gap in there to have that quasi-communal but still personal experience, and I think that's what we made.
Yeah, I think so too. And how do you think I have a couple ideas of what I think was a success in that respect, of how we still felt like we were a community, even though we were completely working on our own projects. I mean, something about working in VR, oh, it's so easy to get isolated on any creative project, whether you're a writer, you know, or a painter, or seriously, or doing VR or coding. You could just feel very isolated. So, like, one thing I noticed is I just liked when we talked about, oh, I'm getting a coffee right now, like in the morning, you know, and I drink cacao. So I was like, so fancy. But yeah, and it was just kind of fun to talk about, like, oh, and then how much tea have you had? How much coffee had you had? Kind of to see how jittery we would be. And, you know, just having like some fun with that. I also think the check-ins were helpful. But what do you think made that a success? Yeah.
Yeah, I think the same. I think it's finding that balance, right? Like, between because the advantage was, I mean, and I knew this going in, that I loved all of you. Like, and I loved spending time with you. So I knew I was going to be excited and get a lot out of those kind of check-ins and that social side. And I knew that I could be a bit silly with all of you and be me. And that kind of level of comfort was nice. So I agree. I think having, and I think, and you've spoken to this too, is that is actually not just having text check-ins. Like, that was great throughout the weekend, when we were just like popping things in and talking about, oh yeah, I'm going to go for a walk now to get out of my computer. I'll check back in or share things. That was great. But actually seeing each other on the video chats and conversing and feeling a little bit more connected, that helped, I think, to build the trust and to build the relationships, because ultimately, everything we do as humans is like, comes down to relationships at some level. And I think it just really helped build and maintain those relationships and made it a little bit more like you're in person.
Yeah. Like I would have never just sent my story to Bridget, but on that call, I think it was probably the first call.
Yeah.
She just offered, like, I will totally read that for you. And I thought, wow, okay, I'm going to take her up on that because I really need somebody to look at this. I've been working on this for a year and no one has seen, people have seen clips, but no one has read the full story and it relies on that. So what did you work on during the weekend?
Frustration.
All of us. That was one nice thing where I felt like we all were able to really relate. And because of that trust, you all also were able to relate on the struggles. And then me going, oh my gosh, this takes so much longer than I thought. Like I thought I was going to do different things. I had all these goals for the weekend. And then I realized, you know what? I'm not going to code the dialogue system because I'm having fun tidying up the narrative and getting all the scenes to connect really well. I'm like, let's just do the code thing later. Anyway, so what did you work?
Yeah, so the game, the Norway game, Found in the Fjords, has really distracted me for the last year.
Yes.
But and it's been great fun, but it kind of took away from, I guess, some of my key games that I had kind of originally got into it to build, one of which is called Elevator to the Center of the Earth, which is exactly what it sounds like. As a geologist, I think it's a kind of a cool little game. But anyway, as you do this, your game guide in this thing is a little dude called Mr. Magma, who is like this magma blob with arms and legs, and he was actually one of the first things I ever modeled in Blender, and then I got to the rigging bit and I gave up because it was too hard.
Oh, you did awesome though. I'm excited. You had some successes though over the weekend, let me tell you.
So then a year later I was like, right, I've learned more, I'm ready to go in and rig my little dude. It felt like one step forward, two steps back a lot of the time, but I'm glad I like you had plans to do something different on the second day, but I then was like, no, I'd been so frustrated on the Saturday, and I thought if I'd have left it there, it would have not been good for my mental health. So I finished Saturday kind of on a little bit of a high point that I was then able to kind of continue on and have now a fully rigged and manipulatable little guy who I can I mean, he doesn't have to do much. He has to kind of walk a little bit and then talk, maybe do some hand gestures. It's not very it's not going to be very complex in terms of in terms of animation, and his rig, like, he doesn't deform a whole bunch, so it's pretty simple. But it was, I feel really glad that I did that on this weekend, because if I hadn't have done it in this environment, I don't think I would have got where I did get, and ready to kind of move on to the next level. And he's going to play such a key part in elevating the experience to something beyond just something quite dry, that I'm glad that I took the time to do that with the support of everyone around, because it was a slog. Like, it was a real slog.
Oh, it is not easy to rig a character, let me tell you. Yeah. And if you don't do it every day, and maybe you have a success and then you come back a little while later and you're like, how did I do that the first time?
Man, I love YouTube.
Oh, thank God for YouTube, right? Thank you, everyone, for creating tutorials for us. Because, it helps me as well. It has for a long time. Oh, and what I was going to also say is I forgot to mention that you're an educator, and that's what your background is. Yeah, I forgot to talk about, like, maybe explain what because you're talking about Mr. Magma, and Found in the Fjords. So what are the themes of what are you creating these VR experiences for? Yeah.
Oh yeah, so
Yeah,
that's
where do you
really
come
the
from? And yeah,
yeah,
oh, I think I
because
just asked 3 questions in one,
that's
maybe.
okay. That's okay. I can handle it.
You can, I know.
Yeah, so really VR is just a tool to tell learning stories, I guess. So I am a lapsed high school science teacher and a lapsed earth scientist and a few other things. And when I was in the classroom, I got really excited by the possibilities of VR in education. And I am absolutely passionate about earth sciences and how they can help develop a really profound connection with the planet and a sense of belonging and the desire to live in a way that is harmonious with the organic and inorganic bits of this place we call Earth. And so really I come from that background of yeah, building my brand, I say, is developing a connection with the planet. And so the experiences I build are all in line with that kind of goal. So this Elevator to the Center of the Earth is really to kind of help people understand not only what this planet is made of, but the weird and wonderful tools that geologists have had to kind of put together to try and tell the stories of our planet. And the Found in the Fjords is about is the story of a young orca experiencing the herring run up in Norway's Arctic fjords for the first time. So really kind of trying to build that interspecies empathy. And yeah, so that's kind of really what VR is, a medium that is incredibly conducive to help build that sense of connection. But really I come from the direction of wanting to educate about earth and environmental science and critical thinking and those kinds of things.
Love it. Yeah. And we've talked about how we see VR not just for games, although we enjoy VR games. And so, yeah, this is a really, yeah, I like what we're saying. Yeah, what you're talking about. Yeah, you're a very good example of using VR for something different, but also you have some game elements in Found in the Fjords.
Yeah, and I think
I
it's
enjoyed
important.
That.
Yeah, and I think that's important. So, not to get too kind of educator heavy. One of the things that I really like, so this pedagogically, so kind of the theory of learning, like games do some things really, really well. So one of the areas of education I'm really interested in is called games-based learning. And it kind of takes advantage of all of these things that games do really, really well. So they're really good at capturing the right emotional state to learn. So learning, we often forget, is an incredibly emotional thing, and you have to be in the right emotional state to learn. And games are so good at getting you into that state. Like they do it. They're really good at and I talk about this in terms of good games, like well-designed games, and that's another story entirely about good design.
Oh, well, we should have another. Yeah. Oh, design is something we talk about all the time. I know that's kind of where my mind was going when I was making that comment earlier, but yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So, oh, and by the way, we have 10 minutes because I'm cheap and Zoom. I only have the free version. So, but I think this is good because I just have a couple more questions. Yeah. I mostly want to hear about your goals. So keep going.
Yeah. So design, they're really good at design. So a well-designed game is really good at building through learning gradually. Like, so you'll go on a mission and it'll teach you how to get there with really subtle clues that kind of get you they find that balance between giving you information and asking you to seek it, which is really good for active learning. They have really good rewards and consequence systems that are perfectly tuned. They have with leveling up and things like that. And so all of these things have been recognized as good learning tools, but games just have different objectives. So they're just not aligned to learning objectives. But if you build a game that is aligned to a particular learning objective, you have something very, 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 very effective. So that's another reason why I've kind of gravitated towards VR and game design as a way of learning, a way of promoting learning, and kind of the medium for effective educational design. So and I'm not like married to VR. Like I would happily build a 2D thing too now, but VR just has that extra level of that immersion and that transportation, which really ups the emotional engagement, which without that you can't do much. Like if no one's really like feeling ready to then they're not going to pick up what you're laying down.
Yep. So with that, what are your next steps in VR? And what are your goals?
Actually, funny, I'm part of an entrepreneur program in my town.
Yeah. Oh, that's
so
wonderful.
I'm in the middle of writing my business plan right now, like and trying to understand exactly that question, like what do I want to do? And really I really see a place. Right now we're at this place in the world where there's a lot of people who are suddenly becoming very interested and passionate about the planet and about making changes, but they don't know how, right? Like I don't think we've been very good as a society as identifying what is effective change, like helpful change, helping people make decisions about that is that what that effective change is, and then communicating all of that, you know. So where I see that I fit is in that area where I'm like, okay, you care, let's help you care effectively to make change. So I'm just going to keep building these VR experiences and working with museums and working with schools and the odd individual here and there, and trying to get, you know, some money to do it, and see where we go, and see if we can help just make a little bit of change in the world, and pay for it by doing other things for people that they want. Yeah.
And are there going to be any future game jams
or
co-working sessions? Like, I'm not sure what to call it.
Yeah, I really want. I think I really enjoyed it. I think we've struck on a model that I think a lot of people would really appreciate. Like everybody I've talked about with it were like, wow, I can see that working for me. And I think one of its strengths was its size, like its small size. So, you know, it's finding a way to maintain that intimacy, but also allow more and more people to take part. So possibly little pods of people, or self, like this is the model to host your own, have at her. But personally for me, I would like to do these kind of maybe once a quarter, and get a few more people in like maybe in little subgroups, but just open it up. But yeah, I think I want to do it again. Do you want to do it again?
Yeah. I totally do.
Yeah. And there were a few people who couldn't because of timing, because we were around kind of American Thanksgiving and then getting up to Christmas. So a lot of people weren't able to. So I kind of have promised some people that there'll be another one so that they can try it.
So that they can try it. Yeah.
So I kind of have committed to that now. And in my associated goal of not flaking, I should really do that.
You do not flake. Maybe I know you in a different way.
Yeah, possibly.
You're always available when I have a question or something. So there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and so
I'm always here for you.
See, this is a good friend, everybody. Anyway, Oh, so where can people find you? I think we can wrap up because I have 3 minutes on the clock here.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah,
For
so
recording. I can talk to you later.
yeah, we so people can find me in a bunch of different places. Like I am everywhere. My Instagram and Facebook. No, I don't have it. Instagram, Twitter, refuse to call it X, and YouTube. If you just look for Dreadwoods VR, so Dr. Edwards VR, you will find me. And Louise Edwards, Dr. Louise Edwards on LinkedIn. And you can find out the things that I'm doing. And also for more on this project, you can look at foundinthefjords.org is our website. And again, just look for anything that says anything found in the fjords and you'll likely find us.
Awesome. And I'm going to put all of that in what they call the show notes. I've never done a podcast before. This is my very first one, or interview. Like there's so many words you could call things, right? That were like interview, game jam,
casual chat.
This is a little bit more formal than our.
Yes, it is our normal Friday morning
Friday check-ins. Yes, so we do this once a month. So I highly suggest everyone to find a friend that can hold you accountable, and so that you don't feel alone when you're making your VR games. Yes. That's for sure.
Yeah, so. I think we have this relationship that we have developed because we've never met in person. We connected through various online forums, XR Women, and a couple other places, and just kind of connected, and then it was like, oh, I really like you, and I think we kind of are good for each other. Do you want to maybe have a regular coffee date? So once a month on a Friday, we meet and we chat about things, and it's been so good for me, and so
we wanted to share
you need
that
to find yourself a Christine.
You need to find yourself a Louise. So definitely I wanted to share this, and I'm so excited to share our conversation with all of you as well, and that co-working game jam weekend that we had. So thank you so much, Louise, for being my first guest.
I am so happy
letting me interview you, and thank you so much for letting me feature you on my channel. I'm so excited.
It's been a pleasure, and thanks for being part of the inaugural Let's Make Some Jam co-working weekend.